So moving on from our heating plan. So last week we had a look at doing the details for our parapet and balcony. So that should all be fine. But if anybody has any questions or so, we can talk about all that. Talk about those things later on. And I'm actually expecting that there's going to be over the next couple of weeks, as we get together every Wednesday, we'll be talking about these details and thrashing out those details. So that's all fine. So we'll be working through all of that. So we've got those details. We're doing our underfloor heating plan for on our showroom level. Then for our level 1, we have to do a life safety plan for that, showing exit travel distances and how we go about exiting the building to show the private certifier that it is all compliant in terms of emergency exits. And then we're going to have to specify some of the firefighting equipment for that as well. Now you can do that on the one plan, or you can break that up into several plans. So probably a great deal of this you all know anyhow. I think what I'm understanding from what I see people's knowledge is you cover this quite well in compliance. So we can zoom through it fairly quickly. But yeah, I think it's very well established that every building must have at least one exit from each story. So we're going to have to exit at least once from our building, but what we do have is we have exit travel distances for our building as well, which may mean that we'll need more than one exit from that, and that they'll have to be fire isolated. We covered those things in project 2. Typically what we do with, before we go working through any particular section in the NCC, we ensure that we've established what our class of building is, and also our number of stories. So I think we all know that now, that we've got a class 6 building on the lower ground, the showroom, and class 5 offices above that. We're 3 stories high at 3 metres per story, so we're looking at around 9 metres finished ceiling height for that top floor. So right, so we're going to have to look at so D 1.3, whether we need a fire isolated exit. So when fire isolated stairways and ramps are required. So for class 2 and 3 buildings, class 5, 6 and 7, so section B. So every stairway or ramp serving as a required exit must be fire isolated, unless in class 9, open space stand, etc. Building has a sprinkler system, or the required exit does not provide access or egress to, and is separated from the extra story by construction having FRL 60, 60, 60, etc. We are, we're going to have fire isolated exits on that floor. But our main thing with the exit travel, to work out how many we need. So class 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 buildings, no point on a floor must be more than 20 metres from an exit, or a point from which travel in different directions to 2 exits is available, in which case the maximum distance to one of those exits must not exceed 40 metres. So that's saying that we can, if we've got 2 exits on our floor, that will allow us to travel 20 metres to a point at which one exit is within 20 metres of that, so a total of 40 metres, and then the other exit can be sort of at this point wherever it wants to be. Now we'll have a look at some other things that say why it can't be just off in the ether somewhere. But that's if we've got 2 exits. If we only have the one fire isolated exit, well then that has to be within 20 metres of any point in the floor. And so given the size of this building, I think we can all agree that that's not going to be possible to do that. If we were dealing with just a ground floor only, well then we get 30 metres to that. So we'll have to have those two, but once we've got those two, then from any point in the floor, one exit has to be within 40 metres of that, and then the other exit can be where it'll be. So then we go down to D1.5. So yes, we've established that we have alternative exits. So exits that are required as alternative means egress must be distributed as uniformly as practicable within or around the story served in positions where unobstructed access to at least two exits is readily available from all points on the floor. So we don't aggregate them together. We don't have them sitting next to each other. In fact, they have to be not less than 9 metres apart. So, yeah, if we've got those alternative exits, we've got to make sure that one, basically at opposing ends of the building is what this is. Well, this is not saying you have to do it at opposing ends of the building, but it means says they have to be at least 9 metres apart. And then our other constraint in regards to this is section C, not more than, and I'll skip through all that because it's not relevant, in all other cases 60 metres apart and located so the alternative paths of travel do not converge such that they become less than 6 metres apart. So our maximum distance between those two exits is 60 metres. So to show this information to a private certifier, they're going to want to see, okay, how far is that exit from this exit? They want to see that it's within 60 metres. So probably a good thing to include on your life safety plan is the distance between your two fire isolated exits. And then they also have to see that you can have paths of travel from any point in the building to a point at which a person has choice between two exits and it's within 20 metres from that point to the nearest exit. So as long as you're able to show that in your life safety plan. So what I suggest is from the most extreme cases, you bring you draw your red path to this point and say that it's this distance to this one, it's this distance to that one. And so paint that worst case scenario, and if the worst case scenario fits that description, then that's what you need for your life safety plan. So yeah, fairly clear on that. Two exits, both fire isolated, and less than 60 metres apart, which is going to be possible because our building is not that large.
Can you have too many exits?
Well,
if they're all more than 9 metres apart?
Yes. Yep. If they're more than 9 metres apart, yes, you can have. Yeah. Certainly.
So more, but I cannot have
yeah.
too many.
No.
Okay.
You can only have too many if you go within that 9 metres.
Yeah. If you go within that 9 metres, or that you have paths of exits converging within 6 metres of each exit. So, I think chucking in extra, like you might be able to, I think you'd be able to fit in one extra exit within this building if you so wished. But I think if you're chucking in an extra 2, you can get 4 in, you reckon?
I've got 4.
You got 4, and yeah, and yeah, okay. Oh, so yeah, but this is speaking about required exits. So yeah. So what? Yeah.
Extra.
Yeah. So what you can do is you can have exits nominated for fire, like so ones with exit signage. So in case of emergency, in fact, there we go. Like so, one of those signs. So in case of emergency, that's our fire exit. And so in case of emergency, that's not our fire exit. I'm not sure if I can actually get out that way, but let's say that I can. That's not an exit.
Yeah.
That's not one of our required exits. So that's all. That should be fairly simple. Are there any questions on those required exits for our life safety plan?
Actually, in the original plan, there's already one that's closer than 9 meters.
Closer than 9 meters to what?
Well, the main entrance. Oh, so the main entrance doesn't count.
No. So yeah. But
The stairs are servicing the upper levels. So by the time everyone comes out through that main entrance, it doesn't matter. No one's going to be in the ground floor. It's the people coming down the stairs. So you're looking at the stairs, their distance between each other themselves, which is.
Yes,
get that plan happening.
Just looking at the stairs, at the fire escapes, and not at the main entrance for those 9 meters.
Yeah. So the path of travel can't go within 6 meters of each exit.
Yeah.
So you can't have people converging like a V into one exit. Otherwise, they're going to pile up at the door.
Yeah. So we will have an exit sign above this door here for our required exit in case of emergency. Although for our ground floor, we've got 30 meters now. Look, you can nominate either. Actually, no, let's not. So if we were to nominate this as an exit, well then we are converging within that 6 meters. So we'll have to nominate either that as an exit. Well, we'll nominate that one as an exit, and that as an exit for ground floor. So for those coming down from upper floors, they're not going to go through this door because that one's not marked as an exit. This one's marked as an exit, so that's their exit. But from the ground floor, we have that 30 meters. And so we can, from any point on that floor, if we can get to one of those exits if we can get to all of the exits. So if we only had one on there, then we've got 30 meters to get to it. If we have the two, well then we can travel 20 meters to a point at which we have 20 meters to the nearest exit. So that'll comply quite simply for those. But we're not having to do the life safety plan for that level. We're just doing it for level 1. So we're only doing the one life safety plan, and that life safety plan is for level 1. And I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be doing fire isolated exits. If you're not, I'll make you do fire isolated exits. And when you hit that door, that's it. You're at that point of exit, because once you've entered the fire isolated exit, then that's counted as that. So also with our life safety plan, you'll also be looking at section E for exit signage as well, because these things work in with each other. I'll have to. Actually, I might. Where's my? Oh, there's the thing. I'll get the page number for that section E part 4. Where are we? E4 221. Okay. So, to facilitate evacuation, suitable signs or other means of identification must, to the degree necessary, be provided to identify the location of exits and guide occupants to exits, and be clearly visible to occupants and operate in the event of power failure of the main lighting system for sufficient time for occupants to safely evacuate. So, so we need exit signs like these that have their own battery systems that will enable them, once the power has cut out, that those batteries will keep that sign illuminated. And they have to be placed in a way that people can see. Like in the case of an emergency, they can see where that exit is, and they're directed to a point at which they'll get further direction as to what the exit is. So that's the main. That's it in a nutshell, and that's what you have to be thinking about with your exit signage on your floor plan. You've got to think, if this was my desk here, or if I was somebody visiting a person at this spot in the floor, and there's an emergency situation, that I'll be able to look around and go, oh, that's where the exit, well, that's where I have to go to the exit, so I go there, and then I'll be able to see other signs to say exit this way. But we'll have a look at that E part 4 for the deemed to satisfy provisions.
Are you able to draw up the symbols for us, just in case we can't find them in the Revit?
Or I haven't drawn up the symbols for them. But yeah, what I'm expecting you to do is produce a legend with.
With our own.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, with your own. I'm not sure if they. Yeah, I'm not sure if they are within the Revit. Yeah, I think there will be. Yeah. No, good point. So we need emergency lighting requirements. So we've got our well, we'll start with that emergency lighting requirements. So we've just got our exit signage, but then we'll also need emergency lighting in every fire isolated stairway, fire isolated passageway, fire isolated ramp. Or every passageway, corridor, hallway of the light having length of more than 6 metres to the entrance to a doorway of a sole occupancy, that's class 2, 3, in a sole occupancy unit within class 5, so that's us. The floor area of the unit is more than 300 square metres. So we are more than 300 square metres. So we will require emergency lighting in that hallway and in the rooms and in the fire isolated stairway. And we don't need to go into measurement of distance there. Also, in terms of design and operation of emergency lighting, I'm not expecting you to go into AS 2293 Part 1. You'll just have to say that, emergency lighting to be installed as per this Australian standard, and that's typically what I'm expecting for all of these services, provided that you're not going into detail with the Australian standards. Typically what's going to happen is that this will be farmed out to a fire systems engineer anyhow, and they are going to be specifying all of these bits. And within the office I used to work in, a lot of what we did would get sent out to fire systems engineers for working out, but then for some of the smaller projects, one of the engineers in the office would pencil stuff it onto drawings, and I'd have to include that in the drawings. But either way, as the drafters, you're not going to have to pore through these Australian standards and work out, and specify things to that detail.
I just had a look in Revit. There's quite a number of annotations. I don't know if it's the right ones, but there's quite a number of symbols in there.
Okay, for exit for exit signage.
Smoke detectors, fire alarms. I haven't found an exit signage.
Yeah, I knew that the smoke detectors and some of the more basic ones are in there, but I wasn't sure about the exit signs.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you can't come up, if there's not a Revit family for those exit signs, I think it's going to be a fairly simple thing to produce your own exit sign for that, either a running man or the title exit to show that. Once again, I'm not expecting you to draw up your signage as per the Australian standard, or to be writing exit with this particular size, etc. All I'm expecting is that the locations of those things are noted, and then there's a legend, and then it says signage as per appropriate Australian standard. So we're going to have to specify some emergency lighting in that. Now that can go on your fire systems plan, or it can go on your life safety plan, or you may want to combine the whole lot if it's not going to be too messy. But direction signs, I think, will definitely have to go on your life safety plan as opposed to your fire systems plan. So that has to be seen with your paths of travel. So direction signs. If an exit is not readily apparent to persons occupying or visiting the building, an exit sign must be installed at appropriate positions in corridors, hallways, lobbies and the like, indicating the direction to a required exit. So, is there something specific for Class 6? No, there's not. So you're going to have to think about where people will be within that floor, and that they can see an exit sign which is directing them to at least another exit sign which directs them to the fire isolated exits. So what I'm expecting with that, if I move down to the next plan, is that let's say we've got a fire isolated exit here and a fire isolated exit here. Now you might modify things a bit in terms of that with all your toilets and your fire isolated exits, but I would expect a sign above this door saying that that's a fire isolated, so exit this way. And then if it was tucked around the corner, well then we'd have to have a sign here where the hand is now pointing towards that exit sign, and then we would have to have a sign probably here and one here to direct people that are in this room to the hallway to where they can see those signs. And then we'd have another exit sign above here. What you're also required to have is signage at the lift there saying in case of emergency, do not use lift. You can add that to your life safety plan if you wish.
The exit sign is under specialty equipment under industrial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for those at home, yeah, exit signs under specialty equipment, industrial.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Amy. So, yeah, and then so you'll specify those exit signs, and then you'll specify the relevant Australian standard for that, and then that's as far as you go in terms of that. So every required exit sign must comply with Australian Standard 2293 Part 1. Well, I'll stop that one at that point, so we can break these up a little bit, unless there's any questions about our life safety plan, so our exit travel distances, exit signage and emergency lighting. Yeah. So that's fairly simple.